The US government just told people to go back to butter and tallow. Wellness influencers have called seed oils the hateful eight for years. But the largest, most direct studies on seed oils just came back, and they say something almost nobody is talking about. The anti-seed oil movement leans heavily on two reanalyzed studies from a researcher named Christopher Ramsden, published in 2013 and 2016. He went back to data collected in the 1960s and 70s, where people replaced saturated fat with linoleic acid, the main fat in seed oils. The 2016 analysis found that participants who made that swap had lower cholesterol, but not lower mortality, and oddly, the lower their cholesterol went, the higher their risk of death. That single finding, decades old, recycled through the paleo diet boom, and then social media, is a huge part of why seed oils got branded as toxic. Critics started calling 8 common oils: canola, corn, cottonseed, grapeseed, rice bran, soy, sunflower, and safflower, the hateful 8, claiming they cause inflammation and raise the risk of disease. Here's where it gets interesting. Most older nutrition studies relied on food diaries, people self-reporting what they ate, which is notoriously unreliable. But a major 2025 study, presented at the American Society for Nutrition's annual meeting, did something different. Researchers analyzed data from 1,894 people and measured linoleic acid directly in their blood plasma, instead of relying on diet records or questionnaires. They found that higher linoleic acid levels were consistently linked to lower risk factors for both cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. Specifically, people with higher linoleic acid had lower glucose, lower insulin, and lower insulin resistance. They also had lower levels of 3 separate inflammation markers: C-reactive protein, glycoprotein acetyls, and serum amyloid A. That's 3 independent signals, all pointing the same direction, not one cherry-picked number. And this isn't an isolated result. A separate meta-analysis pooling 13 studies and more than 310,000 people found that the highest linoleic acid intake was linked to a 15% lower risk of coronary heart disease events and a 21% lower risk of dying from coronary heart disease, compared to the lowest intake. Another large analysis covering nearly 40,000 people across 10 countries found a 35% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes in people with higher linoleic acid biomarkers. Even Harvard School of Public Health weighed in directly on the inflammation claim. Walter Willett stated that the idea omega-6 fats are inherently pro-inflammatory has been repeated heavily online, but the actual body of research doesn't support that as a blanket statement. If the data leans this clearly one way, why does the fear persist? Because seed oil is almost never the only variable. Harvard researchers pointed out that the bigger issue is usually the ultra-processed food seed oils are found in, not the oil itself in isolation. Think fried fast food, packaged snacks, reheated frying oil. The oil is riding along with refined carbs, excess sodium, and repeated high heat exposure, and it gets blamed for damage those other factors are mostly causing. There is one real exception worth knowing: hydrogenated oils, which create trans fats. Those genuinely are linked to harm. And that's a separate issue from the seed oils sitting in your pantry in their normal, unhydrogenated form. That distinction is exactly the kind of detail that gets lost when a claim goes viral. So, are seed oils toxic? The largest, most direct evidence we have right now says no. And in some cases, they may actually lower your risk of heart disease and diabetes. The actual thing worth worrying about is the fried, ultra-processed food they usually show up in, not the bottle of canola oil in your cupboard. If you want more myths broken down by what the research actually says, not what goes viral, subscribe. That's the entire point of this channel.